Welcome to this short video on Infosim StableNet Network Change and Configuration Management, otherwise known as NCCM. This feature is primarily located under the Device Automation tab in the GUI. Within the NCCM modules, you'll find a number of tabs. The first tab we'll be looking at is the Backup Job tab. Backup jobs form the initial heart of NCCM, where we can back up and store the configuration or other device information commands from devices that have been onboarded into StableNet. Backup jobs are similar to other jobs in the system in that they have a name and a description. They have a schedule of some sort. This could be a single job running only once, or it could be a scheduled job that could run every day or on some sort of interval, etc. They have some settings, which we'll go through in a minute. In this case, these are just sort of default settings being used to back up configurations of devices. They have a device selection, where you can choose which devices this job will run against. It could be selected, devices could be selected based on any number of characteristics, including their tags or other information, IP addresses, names, any sort of regular expression filter that you could think of to select your devices. You can actually apply a tag to this job, and you can also use the group and customer selection to apply group parameters to the job. In this case, we've run a backup of all of our devices, and the result will be shown in this tree. This is the default backup tree, but of course you can create other backup trees based on tag characteristics similar to inventory trees or measurement trees and so on. Let's take a look very quickly at what we can see underneath an individual device. There is a backup. The top is a backup folder selection where you can see all of the stored backups and their time frames when they were used. You can click on any one individual backup and see the actual backup on the right hand side. You can also select another backup from the history and perform a config diff on that to bring up the pane which shows all of the differences between the two backups that you're comparing, with a color coding on the right to kind of show you where things have either changed or have been removed or possibly have been added to the configuration. You can also have other commands, we call them device information commands, which would be similar to a show command or whatever the terminology would be for your particular vendor. Those show commands or device info commands can retrieve additional pieces of information and also store them within StableNet. You can see a large number of show commands here that have been run against this particular device. At the bottom, you can also see a startup difference where we're comparing the startup and the running config to see if there are any differences. In configuration jobs, we can use the StableNet configuration engine to perform configuration changes or pushes out to devices. There are three basic types of configuration jobs: simple configuration jobs, snippet-based configuration jobs, and template-based configuration jobs. Each of these come with their own capabilities. All of them are similar to the backup jobs in that they have a schedule, they have a device selection, a tag, and a group and customer selection. In the case of a simple configuration job, they also have configuration settings. In this case, it is merely the lines that you would type as if you were on the CLI of that device in order to change the community string in this case, or perform whatever functions you're interested in. Template or snippet-based configuration jobs offer the ability to use snippets as the basis of the configuration. So in this case, we have the same settings but we also have a snippet configuration. And in this case, the snippet is merely 2 lines of the name server DNS name server configuration, which could be pushed out to the device. You can also do more complicated template-based configurations where you use a behind-the-scenes template uh, which looks like a script essentially using some of the StableNet capabilities. In this case, to identify whether or not the NTP server matches the user input. If it does, then leave it alone. If it doesn't, then change it to what it should be. You can create very complicated template-based jobs using the StableNet engine to perform a large variety of functions. The final type of job we'll be looking at today is the policy check jobs, where you can use, again, primarily snippets to review the result of a backup, whether that is the configuration backup or one of those device info commands, and then apply a policy to see whether or not that backup matches the policy. So these are used generally to check configurations to make sure they adhere to your corporate guidelines. Those policies can be simple policies looking for basically one single thing, maybe like checking DNS. And in this case, we're using a single snippet similar to the one that I just showed to verify that the name servers are what they should be. As another example, we also have more complex jobs like these NSA Cisco guideline jobs, which use multiple snippets behind the scenes to build a larger policy. As you can see here, there's a number of different snippets that are used in order to build this overall policy for section 4.2.2. It includes things like disabling TCP and UDP small servers, enabling DNS resolution, and so forth. Each of these is their own individual snippet that is put together into the larger policy, which can be run against the device backup to identify whether or not that policy is in force. You can, by double clicking on a backup, you can enable the viewing of any device checks that have been run against that configuration, again color coded to show you whether or not those checks have succeeded or maybe possibly had a failure. You can check on you can click on the device checks tab to look at the individual snippets that have been applied in a policy check to see whether they're compliant or not, and if they're not compliant, what the severity of the non-compliance is. The policy checking area also includes our ability to do things like our vulnerability checks for primarily Cisco and Juniper devices, as well as our end-of-life policies. Though that service is an automated service that can be purchased from Infosim to download and install the end-of-life management or vulnerability management configurations, which can be used to check for vulnerabilities and end-of-X information on devices. Together, all of this information, the backup jobs, the configuration jobs, and the policy checking jobs, comprise the overall Infosim StableNet NCCM solution. Thank you very much for watching this video. We hope to see you again soon on another informational video.